just knew it was going to be a wild Pigskin Frenzy. I just knew it. And week 8 did not disappoint. Everyone compares the weeks of college football, and they're like, oh, this week's better than this week. To me, it just seems like the weeks are just starting to add up more and add up more and add up more and just get better and better and better and more drama-filled. We have another head coaching vacancy. This one we kind of expected, and we're going to talk about it at the end of this episode, but we have some games to go over because those were doozies for Week 8. Our Week 8 recap happening now. If you're watching me on YouTube, you can see I have a brand new little microphone here. If you're listening to me on audio, I hope the audio sounds a little bit crisp because of the new microphone. Guys, also, apologies. Savannah 2J will appear next Tuesday due to a little bit of the technical issues. We're doing this show a little bit later than expected, and due to scheduling conflicts, she will appear next Tuesday for the Week 9 recap of Pigskin Frenzy. We will have her on then. But for now, you're getting me. So welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel North. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like this episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. There's also X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. You're going to get college football takes from me, the prodigy of college football, and you're going to get a lot of takes from me as well. The website's www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. We are ready to rock and roll. Hectic episode that we have on tap and we have in store for Pigskin Frenzy for Week 8. We're so fired up. 5,500 listeners now. Can you believe it? 5,500 listeners for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, a big thank you for taking some time each and every Tuesday and Thursday to just listen to the Pigskin Frenzy, listen to the college football coverage presented by me. Like literally, it's an honor to have you guys coming on and listening and tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday. We couldn't do this without you guys, and most importantly, we could not do this show without our Lord and Savior, Jesus. We proclaim him and give him all the glory and praise on this show, and we proclaim him across all platforms as well. If you want to come to know Jesus, it's the best decision you can ever make in your life. Contact me on X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy, as well as the website www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. It's the best, like I said, it's the best decision you can ever make in your life. Knowing Jesus, because without him, we would not be doing this. Without him, we would not be in college football media, and we give him all the glory and praise. I believe he put us in college football media to spread his name, and that's what we're doing. We're spreading his name, and we're also talking about college football while we're doing it. So we're so thankful that Jesus is Lord and Savior of all, and we proclaim him across all platforms and on this show. Guys, College Football Day, Week 8 recap, and let's get it started. We had a Friday game for Pigskin Frenzy, a Friday game, and we're super pumped up for that, and we're fired up to do that. So, Week 8 recap. Here we go. Friday game, Miami and Louisville. Louisville at Miami. Louisville went down to Coral Gables and played Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. I had Miami when Taylor Corn was on the show. Shout out to Taylor Corn. She does a great job in sports media. Go and follow her on all platforms as well with the Barn, and she works a little bit with Alabama as well. So Louisville at Miami. Thought Miami was going to win it. I thought Miami was going to outgain them and outdo them in the trenches. I thought that Miami was a little bit too physical for Louisville. Well, boy, was I wrong. All right, was I wrong. This is the only game I got wrong out of the Pigskin Frenzy games for Week 8. Final score was Louisville 24, Miami 21. Louisville 24, Miami 21. And Louisville is right back in the ACC race. Do they need a little bit of help? Yes, they need a little bit of help. They absolutely do. They need a little bit of help from Virginia, the team that they lost to. But Louisville's back in the conversation for an ACC title bid, and they're back in the conversation potentially for a CFP bid. And Jeff Brom has done a heck of a job with that program, so congratulations with Louisville, and congratulations on that big win, because that was a big signature win for the season for the Cardinals. Let's talk about Louisville before we go right down into Miami. I said, before we go into Louisville really quick, I said that Miami's penalties were going to be the reason why they could struggle in games or even drop a game. They need to get it cleaned up. Was it better than Florida State? Sure. Did they commit a little bit too much penalties? Absolutely. So let's talk about Louisville really quick, and then we'll talk about Miami. Positive and negative circle moments for Louisville. Let's talk about Miller Moss. 2 touchdowns, 248 yards, 23 for 37. Isaac Brown had 113 yards on the ground, 15 carries. He didn't have a touchdown, but he averaged 7.3 yards per rush on the ground. I mean, literally, he was an absolute madman on the ground. Isaac Brown was. Then you had Chris Bell, 136 yards, 9 receptions, 15.1 yards per reception on average, and 2 touchdowns. That's insane. He did really good for Miller Moss, and Miami secondary could not get a hold of Chris Bell that night. The first drive was awesome. The first drive, they made it all the way down. They were thinking about kicking a field goal. They faked the field goal, got a first down and goal, and then they got a touchdown after that. Brilliant. Brilliant by Jeff Brom. Brilliant by the offense. Hands down, just brilliant. So they looked really, really good on their first drive as well. That defense was nasty and salty, especially up front. That defensive line was giving Miami's offensive line fits all night. So let's look at the positive circle moments. Positive circle moments, Louisville in the line of trenches. Positive circle moment there, clicking the pin, the trenches. Louisville looked good in the trenches. They looked physical. They were, outmanning them on certain drives, and they got to Carson Beck, and they looked really good as well. Let's look at the stats overall. Isaac Brown looked good, 119 rushing yards compared to Miami's 63 rushing yards. Positive circle moment for Louisville there. 367 total yards compared to Miami's 334. They were 5 for 14 on third down, so they weren't all that great, but they were good enough to win the ball game. So that was a positive circle moment there. I believe they only allowed 1 sack against a Miami offensive line, or a Miami defensive line that has pro talent on that defensive line. So take it as you will. 1 sack allowed. That's a positive circle moment, positive circle moment there as well. I will say the negatives to me. The negatives for Louisville a little bit are obviously the 1 turnover and the 6 penalties for 64 yards. I think you got to clean that up a little bit. But other than that, there wasn't really many negative circle moments. There really wasn't many negative circle moments for Louisville in this ball game. They came with a mission, and they were on a mission to win this football game. They're back in it. They have to rely on Virginia in this race. I understand that. But they're back in it. They really are. They're back in it. They're not going anywhere. Jeff Brom doing a heck of a job at Louisville. I mean, literally coming from Purdue, he did really good at Purdue, goes to Louisville, takes the Louisville job, and is taking Louisville taking the ACC by storm with Louisville, has had an ACC championship game appearance already 2 years ago, and could be on the verge of doing it again. If Virginia loses a couple of games or another game or two, and the race comes down between Georgia Tech, an undefeated Georgia Tech, and a Miami and Louisville. Louisville gets in over Miami. Why? Head to head. They're back in it. They're back in it. They really haven't probably even left, but the Virginia loss did put a little bit of damper on their hopes, but now they're right back in the conversation. Let's see how it's going to work out. I'm excited to see how it's going to work out for Louisville and Jeff Brom. Congratulations, a huge signature win for the Cardinals on that. This coming up week, Louisville has Boston College, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central kick at home against Boston College. They're number 19 in the nation, and they should be. Going to be an interesting game there. I mean, I lean towards Louisville on that, but you never know in college football with all the craziness that is happening in this sport right now. Louisville, not a letdown game, hopefully. Let's see what happens. Louisville has Boston College on Saturday. Let's talk about Miami before we move on to the other 3 games that I got right and the coaching carousel job. Miami. Well, Carson Beck played like 2024 Carson Beck this past Friday night. It was not interesting, and it was not entertaining for if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan. Just look away. The turnovers were a big issue, but we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Let's talk about the positive circle moments for Miami in this game. The positive circle moments for me in this game, Malachi Toney is an absolute stud, 135 yards, 9 receptions, 15 yards per reception. I think that was a huge positive circle moment. He did his absolute best. And Miami stayed in it. Miami stayed in it until the very end, and they showed some fight. So I think in a lot of these losses that Mario Cristobal has, and you're thinking, oh, Mario Cristobal shouldn't have, lost that game, or, he always loses games that he's not supposed to lose, right? And he does, yes. But this was a little bit different. I will say that they showed a little bit more fight than the other previous games, right? They showed a lot of fight. They played Louisville tough at the end, and Louisville just came, the turnovers were just too much. And I think that was the negative circle moment there. I think positively, the running game could have been a lot better. Obviously, that's a negative. But I think that some of the offensive weapons on this team were the positive circle moments for the Miami Hurricanes. They're not completely out of it in this race, and they're not completely out of it in the college ball playoff, obviously. But I think that Miami overall they were a negative circle moment, but I'm going to say they had some positive circle moments in this game, and I think Malachi Toney was one of them. I really like him. He's a freshman, and he's playing like he's on Sunday, so it's absolutely mind-boggling and awesome to see Malachi Toney play the way he's playing as a true freshman. So let's talk about the negative circle moments, though, because I think there are more negatives than positives. Well, for one, they outgained them in yards per play, so that's a positive. 5.7, 271 passing yards compared to their 248. That's a positive. 5 for 12 on third down. Not too bad on third down. So that's a positive. But let's go to the negatives. 0-0 sacks allowed. They protected Carson Beck. But let's go to the negatives. The two things that cost Miami this game. And I said it. 9 penalties for 67 yards. Negative circle moment there. And then 4 interceptions thrown. He threw 4 picks in this game. This was 2024 Georgia Carson Beck all over again in this game. Those 4 turnovers cost them this game. I think it was the penalties, yes. But I think, the penalties, yes. I will say that more so the turnovers on top of the penalties. Yes, the penalties were costly, but I will say more so the turnovers. 4 interceptions. That's pretty rough. You're not going to win many games throwing 4 interceptions. The 2024 Carson Beck came out. It's not over for Miami. They only lost 1 game. They just have to win out and make sure they don't slip up anymore. Carson Beck said it himself after the game. They laid an egg. So they can't lay another egg. They can't lay too many eggs, rather. Especially, in the ACC race at least. If they lay another egg, it's probably not going to hurt their playoff chances, maybe. Maybe not, I don't know. But they can't lay too many more eggs, because if they do, then we're going to start talking about, okay, what could have been for Miami all over again, just like last year. They're a loaded team, and they should not be having this discussion every year about, okay, is Miami back? Are they going to go to the playoffs with the best team in college football? And I said a couple of weeks back that they were one of the best in college football. I said that. They didn't play like Friday night. And Ohio State fans are laughing at me and laughing at everybody on the way to the bank because Ohio State is still playing consistently. I said that they could go up against Ohio State and play at a consistent level with them, and Ohio State's taking their money and taking, the fans are taking everything that we said and shoving it back in our face, and they're laughing all the way at the bank right now. Let's see. It's just 1 game, but right now, Miami cannot afford to lay any more eggs in this one. So, Miami, coming up this week, has Stanford. Stanford at Miami, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, in Miami, at home. Home game for Miami. Let's see what happens on Saturday. Going to be an interesting game there. Very interesting game. Stanford at Miami. Stanford coming off of an upset win back at home in California against Florida State. Very interesting. Different team, different circumstances. Let's see what happens on Saturday. Miami desperately needs a bounce back win after this past Friday. Final score was Louisville 24, Miami 21. Miami has to get better at penalties and get better at protecting the football, yes, but get better at those penalties. I think being better disciplined is going to help them in the long run. Louisville, still not out of it, and Louisville looks like a team that you might want to watch out and pay attention to. Let's pay attention to Louisville. I think after this game, they show that we need to start paying attention to them a little bit more. So final score was 24-21. Louisville gets the win. That's the only game I got wrong because the 3 other games I got right. So let's talk about those 3 other games, and then we will wrap up with coaching carousel talk and move on. Let's talk about a fun game for me. Notre Dame and USC. I picked Notre Dame to win the game. I said USC was going to cover. Got it right. Also got it wrong. Final score of this game was Notre Dame 34, USC 24. Notre Dame 34, USC 24. I got Notre Dame right, but I got the covering wrong. Notre Dame covered. The point spread was 9.5. They covered 10 points. Notre Dame looked great on the ground. I said they needed to establish that run game again, establish dominance on the ground, and they did just that. Jeremiah Love had a career night, 228 yards. It's a positive circle moment. Obviously, the running game, obviously what Marcus Freeman's game plan was, especially in the pouring rain, because it was stormy in South Bend, Indiana, Saturday night. The pouring rain happened, and Jeremiah Love was an absolute stud. Jadarian Price, too. Don't get me wrong. Jadarian Price, too. An instance of this was USC dropped a dime. Jaden Maiava and Jacoby Lane dropped a dime. And then all of a sudden, we get a kickoff return, and Jadarian Price is taking it to the house. So just when you think that USC had some momentum and some life in this game, the Irish just took it right back from them and just took the game right back from them, and it just deflated them. Let's talk about Notre Dame in this, and let's talk about their positive circle moments in this game. Obviously, C.J. Carr, 136 yards, a touchdown. You also had an interception. We won't talk about that as much. Yeah, we will. But 16 for 26 in this game. Jeremiah Love, 228 yards, 24 carries, 9.5 yards per rush, 1 touchdown. He averaged 9.5 yards per rush on average. That is a game right there. That's nearly a first down on every carry. Unbelievable. Jadarian Price, 6.7 yards on average, 87 yards, 13 carries, and a touchdown. The running game was the positive circle moment for this team. Let's look at the positives. 442 total yards for Notre Dame compared to USC's 396. Passing, USC had 328 compared to Notre Dame's 136, but mainly it was all Notre Dame. 306 rushing yards, and they had 6.3 yards per play. They had 306 rushing yards on the ground. Positive circle moment for Notre Dame. 306 yards on the ground. They only allowed 1 sack, and I think that's pretty much the biggest positive moments there. I think the negatives are still in play, though. Yes, the turnover. I think the 8 penalties for 96 yards has to stop. I think that's not good. 3 for 11 on third down, not good. I think throughout the rest of your schedule, you should be fine. But what's going to happen when you get to a playoff game? And here is where it gets a little bit dicey. Yes, they're a 2-loss team. Is Notre Dame a college football playoff team? I think if they play like that, they will possibly be in the college football playoff once again. How do you not include them and not talk about them in the race? You know what I mean? Like, how do you not include them and talk about them? I think that Notre Dame is, in fact, in the race with wins like this. 306 yards rushing, and then they went out and beat everybody out. Now, they have the 2 losses. Obviously against Miami, obviously against Texas A&M, and a lot of people are going to say, wait a minute. They had 2 losses. Yeah, those losses were pretty good losses, at least. You know, it's not like, an LSU right now. It's not like a Clemson. It's not like any other schools right now that are trying to still fight. They are losing. They lost to 2 good teams who potentially will probably go to the college football playoff. So Notre Dame, are they in? I think they have a shot and a real good shot at being in the college football playoff, even as a 2-loss independent. I think other things might have to happen, maybe, sure. But the way they're playing, they look like they are on pace to do that. To me, Notre Dame, up next, they have a bye week. So they don't play anybody Saturday. Then they have Boston College, then Navy, then Pitt, then Syracuse, then Stanford. I favor them in every single game for the rest of the year. I favor them in every single game. They're on the road. They're back home. Doesn't matter. I still favor them in every single game. Now, are we going to not pay attention? They could lay an egg too. Who knows? If they lose another game, they're definitely out. But the rest of their schedule favors them. I believe that may just be enough for them to get them into the college football playoff. That's just my honest thoughts about Notre Dame. That's just my thoughts. That's going to be enough to get them into the playoff. So Notre Dame, especially on the ground, they found their identity once again, and now it's time for them to truck along, because this happened last year, and they made it all the way to the national championship. I'm not saying they're going to make it to the national championship now, but it happened last year. Let's see what happens. They win the game 34-24. Let's talk about USC, and then we'll get to the other two games, and then we'll talk about the coaching carousel happening now. So USC in this game, I said that the offense was going to tick and go, and I gave the offense the credit that it deserved, and it did have the credit that it deserved. I think they played well on offense. It's just the defense that was the concern and the problem. And I said that the defense can hold up, they would cover. If the defense held up just enough, they would cover. And I don't think they did its job. That's really about it. I don't think they did its job. I think that's the negative circle moment about this team. Let's talk about the positives, though. 328 passing yards compared to their 136. They won on third down, 6 for 14 on third down. Really good third down efficiency, and they threw the ball well in the rain. That's got to tell you something about Lincoln Riley's offense there. Honestly, I think right there, those are the positive circle moments. And they had 5.6 yards per play. Not the greatest, but not too terrible either. So they had a lot of good play calling moments. They had a lot of good moments on offense, and I think those are the positives for USC in this game. Jaden Maiava, 2 touchdowns, 328 yards, 22 for 42. He had 2 interceptions. The rushing game and the rushing attack could have been better, obviously. They did not have enough rushing yards at all. 68 rushing yards total, which is not good enough against this Notre Dame squad, but they did play okay enough on offense to try to keep them in this ball game. I think what happened is what cost them the game, obviously, and the negative circle moments are what cost them this game. It's the turnovers. 3 turnovers against this Notre Dame defense, and that is the negative. Here's the pin clicker. If you're listening on audio, you hear my pin clicker. That's the negative circle moment. The 3 turnovers, 2 picks, 1 fumble. And then they were clean penalty-wise. They played a clean penalty game. It's just the turnovers, and those were costly turnovers as well in this game. And I think Notre Dame, on some drives, did not capitalize, but at the very end, on that last turnover, Notre Dame did capitalize, and Notre Dame gets the win. So, okay. USC's defense has always been a struggle, I know. Is this a where the rubber meets the road kind of thing here for Lincoln Riley? I don't know, man. I think USC is a better team than most people realize. I don't put Lincoln Riley and USC in the same category as I do with LSU. I think LSU's got a lot more problems than USC does. I think USC's problem is their defense, yes, but their offense is clicking on all cylinders. I think the way USC's trajectory, they have a bye week, and then they play Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, Oregon, and UCLA. Not easy games. I'm not going to sit there and say, I'm not going to lie to you and say and sugarcoat it. It's not going to be that easy. I think they're not done losing. I hate to break it to you, USC fans. I don't think you're done losing. But I will say this. You're going to be competitive in some of these games, I believe. I think Nebraska's going to be a game where you're competitive. I think I favor Northwestern. I favor them against Iowa. UCLA is going to be a very interesting game. And then Oregon, I lean more towards Oregon in that one. But the only doubt I have is Oregon. Other than that, I think that you're going to be competitive in majority of these games. And I think that is good enough for Lincoln Riley to stick around in LA. So I don't know. I think USC's on a different path than most people realize, but I think just to give them credit, I think USC's played a heck of a season and I give a lot of credit to Lincoln Riley and the offensive staff. Defense needs to step up, obviously, but I think USC just played a better team that night, and not only that, their defense just didn't hold up. But I don't think USC's that bad of a football team this season. I may be wrong. A lot of people are going to sit there and say, dude, you're like insane. I mean, you can tell me I'm insane. I just don't see where it's at. I think USC's a decent enough team to, I wouldn't say contend for a playoff spot or anything, but they may go to a high-end non-CFP bowl, maybe, because of the way they're playing. So final score was 34-24. Notre Dame has a bye week. They play Boston College next. USC has a bye week also, and they play Nebraska. So that's going to be a good game for Matt Rule, good game for Lincoln Riley, good test for both. So we'll see what happens there. Could be a pigskin game. Who knows? I might make that a fun pigskin game. Who knows? But final score of that game was 34-24. Notre Dame gets the win in a rainy game in South Bend. Notre Dame a playoff team? Maybe. Just maybe. The third Saturday of October was a doozy. I said that Alabama was going to win this ball game and they were going to cover. And not only cover, I said 14 points. Guess who was right? This guy. And not only was I right, they scored 3 more points than I originally said. Final score was Alabama 37, Tennessee 20. Alabama 37, Tennessee 20. Alabama is getting better and better and better. And the scary thing is that Kalen DeBoer said it in the Monday presser yesterday. Y'all haven't seen the best Bama team yet. This is not Bama's best. So now I'm trying to figure out what is Bama's best, because I don't know, man. Winning a rivalry game, a top 15 game, by 17, that's pretty good. I know it's at home, but still pretty good against a stingy Tennessee team. I just think Bama was the better team, and I knew that Bama was the better team coming into this game. I'm high on Alabama. I've been high on them since week 2. I think that a lot of people were just kind of flustered by the Florida State loss. I said that Bama had to do something in week 1, and I did say that. I said in week 1, Alabama had to do something, but guess what? They have dramatically improved since then. And then in week 2, I said, okay, Alabama, they made me eat my words a little bit. They played a little bit better against ULM, yeah. Then they played Wisconsin, and they played good against that. I said that Bama was going to beat Georgia, and then they did. Then I said Bama was going to go on the road and go back home and play Vandy and beat Vandy, and they did. Then I said they were going to go on the road and play Missouri in a close game and beat Missouri, and they did. I said they were going to beat Tennessee, and they did. Bama is just proving me right. Ty Simpson is proving me right. Let's talk about Ty Simpson. Best quarterback in the country in my eyes. 2 touchdowns, 253 yards, 29 for 19. 49 rushing yards for Jeremy Bernard. He was a dog in this game. Daniel Hill had a touchdown as well. Jeremy Bernard, 60 yards, 5 receptions. Ryan Williams, 87 yards, 5 receptions in this game as well. Scott had a touchdown. Isaiah Horton had a 2-yard touchdown as well. Bama looked good. And also, the defense was stingy. 99-yard pick 6 to go into halftime. Unbelievable. Tuscaloosa was rocking. So, positive circle moment was the offense. Look at the clock. Again, 31 minutes compared to their 28, but they controlled the clock. They did good. Positive circle moment there. They protected in this game, protected Ty Simpson, 0 sacks allowed. So that's a huge positive circle moment. I think they won the line of scrimmage battle in this game. 6.1 yards per play. Yes, Tennessee beat them in every other aspect, probably on paper, but I think time of possession got to them. I think protecting him got to them. I think the mistakes got to Tennessee, and it just doesn't, it may not show it on the field, obviously, or on paper it may not show it, because it says, Tennessee should have won because it's on paper. But on the field, Bama was clearly the better team. Line of scrimmage and in the trenches, they looked better than Tennessee in this ball game. And I think that was a big positive circle moment for Alabama in this game. 5 for 11 on third down, played really good on third down. And I think the 7 penalties and 59 yards is a negative circle moment, but they got to clean that up. But other than that, I think Bama was rocking and rolling. Here's my deal, and I think here's the negative circle moment for me. If you're Alabama, and here's the concern for Alabama, and here's my concern, is the rushing defense. I think the only concern that I have about Alabama is, will their rushing defense hold up? When they play a rushing team, are they going to hold up? Vandy was a rushing team, and Missouri was a rushing team, and they played really good. I'm not saying that, but Missouri kind of went out of their element a little bit. They kind of didn't. They went with their play calling, but in a way they kind of abandoned their play calling, I guess, and in some aspects. And you didn't see a whole lot of that same smash mouth ball that you see out of them, like Vandy did against LSU. You didn't see a lot of that against Alabama. My deal is this: can they hold up against a pure, solid rushing attack? Notre Dame, for example, they played USC this past weekend. They put 306 yards on them. Can they stop a running attack like that. That's my only thought. That's my only process, my only thought. Can they stop a rushing attack like that? That's the only thing I have a concern with about Alabama is their rushing defense. Years prior, it's crazy to think that, because years prior, you wouldn't be worried about Alabama's rushing defense, but now you kind of are. So my concern is this: can they slow the running game down once they play a rushing team? Because Tennessee was running the ball pretty well on them, 142 yards, and we'll talk about Tennessee in a minute, but can they stop that? I think that's my only concern. Other than that, Bama looks like a top 5 team. They are a top 5 team. They're going to be the Pigskin Frenzy rankings come out in a couple of weeks. They come out on November 4th. So in 2 weeks they come out. Bama, if they keep winning, will most likely going into the LSU game will most likely be top 5 or maybe even top 3 on my playoff rankings. We're probably going to generate them, get a generator model going, but they will most likely end up being in my top 3. So we will see. Bama looks solid. Ty Simpson's stats may not show it. They're not eye-popping by no means. But I'm going to sit there and say this. Ty Simpson is still consistently the best quarterback in college football. He may not be eye-popping stats. They may not be. But here's the deal. On the field, he's showing why he's the best quarterback in college football. Because he's played consistently good, and he's helping his team win ball games. So take it as you will, but I think the 2 best quarterbacks in college football right now reside in Tuscaloosa, Alabama with Ty Simpson and Bloomington, Indiana with Fernando Mendoza. Those are the 2 best right now in college football. Final score of this game was Alabama 37, Tennessee 20. Bama Saturday has an interesting game against South Carolina. 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central kick. They go to Williams-Brice. Let's see what Shane Beamer and Beamer Ball has in store. Alabama's a 13.5, 14-point favorite in this ball game on the road. Let's see what happens. I'm curious about this one. Will Bama in unranked road matchups do not perform their best? So let's see what happens. Will they be on their A game? Who knows? But Alabama is looking really, really good right now, and they're rolling. Final score of this game was 37-20. In the 3rd Saturday of October. Let's talk about Tennessee really quick, and then we'll go to Georgia, Ole Miss, and then we'll talk about the head coaching vacancy down in Gainesville. Let's talk about Tennessee. Joey Aguilar, ladies and gentlemen, he, in my mind, is one of the probably top 2 quarterbacks, top 3 quarterbacks in the SEC still. Just because he threw turnovers and had a pick 6 doesn't mean that everybody is due for a bad game, okay? So don't lay off him a little bit. He did have a bad game. He didn't have the best game, but in my mind, he's still statistically one of the best in the country. I think the positive circle moments were the rushing, 142 yards, 268 passing yards, and 410 yards total yards. They're top 5 offense in the country, and they are playing like it. They had opportunities to win the games, and I think they played their best. They played physical. I won't say they played their best, but let me just say this. They played physical, and they played physical enough to try to win this ball game, except for one thing, and this was the biggest negative circle moment for Tennessee, was the turnovers, but the penalties, man. 10 penalties for 66 yards. They played very undisciplined, and it set them back. And I think this game could have been a lot closer than it was if it wasn't for the pick 6, yes, but if it also wasn't for Tennessee being undisciplined. I don't think the Vols were very disciplined at all in this ball game, and I think that's what cost them the game. That's the biggest negative circle moment in my mind. And also the line of scrimmage battle. They lost the line of scrimmage battle, and they allowed 4 sacks on Joey Aguilar. I think the pressure got to him. I think the penalties got to him, and I think that is the main reason why this Tennessee team lost on Saturday. They didn't protect Joey Aguilar good enough, and they lost the line of scrimmage battle, and they were not disciplined. That's pretty much it for Tennessee. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. Is they're a good team? Are they a playoff team? I don't really think they are a playoff team in my eye. I just don't see it. I see a high-end bowl game. I just don't really see a playoff appearance in the cards for Tennessee this year. I think they will have to impress to win out to get into the thing. But, I mean, look, dude. They have Kentucky next. They have Oklahoma on November 1st. They have New Mexico State, Florida, then Vandy. I would keep an eye out for Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and maybe even Florida in Gainesville. They don't have the best record the past decade in Gainesville. And I know Gainesville is coaching with an interim staff right now, but just think about that for a second. They don't have the best record in Gainesville. So that's a trap game for Tennessee there as well. So I don't know. To me, the CFP appearance to me for Tennessee is looking a little bit bleak. Little bit. But I think Tennessee can try to make it work. Let's just see what happens. They got Kentucky at 7:45, 6:45 Central this Saturday in Lexington. Let's see what happens. They played Texas. Excuse me, I had to rub my nose for a little bit. Sorry, I was very unprofessional. But hey, look, it's college football. It's Pigskin Frenzy, guys. I think that Kentucky played Texas really well. Will they do the same against Tennessee? We will figure that out on Saturday. Final score of this game was Alabama 37, Tennessee 20. Alabama is rolling, and they are on a mission. Tennessee just has to be a little bit more disciplined and play a little bit with more of a chip on their shoulder in a lot of areas. Just prove me wrong. That's all I got to say. Just prove me wrong. I'm not seeing a CFP appearance in the Vols cards right now, but just prove me wrong. They have an offense where they could make it. They just got to prove me wrong, man. They just have to prove me wrong. Bama gets the win at home in the third Saturday of October. Finally, last but not least, and then we'll wrap up with the coaching carousel talk, Georgia Ole Miss. Georgia Ole Miss was a doozy. Nobody would stop scoring, and it was so crazy to think that. And then Ole Miss got the ball at to start the third quarter, and they wouldn't stop scoring, and they just kept going and going. Georgia got beat up a little bit, and then the fourth quarter happened, and you finally got to stop. And then after the stop happened, Ole Miss couldn't stop Georgia in the fourth quarter. It was a 17-0 fourth quarter, and I got the game right. Final score of this game was Georgia 43, Ole Miss 35. Georgia 43, Ole Miss 35, a high-scoring game in Sanford Stadium in Athens, Georgia. It was almost like, to me, I quoted Rocky V with this, when Tommy Morrison's beating up on Rocky in the street fight, and he's walking away all proud and confident. Rocky gets up, and he goes, "Hey, Tommy, I didn't hear no bell," in the famous voice. I can't do a Rocky impression to save my life. But he ended up saying that. I didn't hear no bell. That was Georgia. I think you know what? Let me just say this, and I'll say it before. I'll just say it after I go over the positive and negative circle moments for Georgia. Let's talk about the positives for Georgia in this game. I think the positives for me in this ball game for Georgia: Gunnar Stockton, 4 touchdowns, 289 yards, 26 for 31. He actually had 5 total touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown as well. He ran the ball well in this game, 59 yards, 10 carries. 5 total touchdowns in this ball game. I think that Gunnar Stockton played his best game of his collegiate career on Saturday. He looked really poised. He looked good, and he proved a lot of the people wrong, saying, a lot of people that were like, okay, I'll Gunnar Stockton. But he proved that, hey, he can get it. He can get it done. He can get it done in a top caliber game like this. He can get it done. So, and he did. He did it. He did really well in this ball game. They really did not have an answer for Gunnar Stockton in this game. This Ole Miss defense didn't. Gunnar Stockton played really well in this ball game. So positive circle moment, Gunnar Stockton, hands down. That was the Gunnar Stockton that I wanted to see. So he looked good. Running the football, they looked good as well. 221 rushing yards. Golly. They looked really good running the football. That's what I wanted to see from them as well. 289 passing yards. They look good passing as well. 510 total yards compared to their 351 total yards. That defense was gassed out at the end of the game. And then 6.4 yards per play compared to their 5.9 yards per play. Now, 6 for 11 on third down. They did good on third down. Fourth down, very efficient. They only allow 1 sack. There's not really a lot of positives. Not really negatives for this Georgia team. Not really a lot. I think that they had trouble stopping Ole Miss. I think the first half Georgia defense was a little bit rough, and I think that, and even third quarter, Georgia defense was a little bit rough. So if you want to say positive or negative circle moment on that, I guess, negative for Georgia, that was it. They controlled time of possession, 37 minutes, 39 seconds compared to their 22 minutes and 21 seconds. I think on paper, Georgia just beat them. And it looked in the fourth quarter, they did just flat out beat them. But there wasn't a lot of negatives for either team in this game. It was just back and forth. Who was going to get a key stop? And Georgia got the key stop. Here's my thoughts about Georgia overall. I said I didn't hear no bell, right? Here's what is so good about Georgia. Last year, they didn't have this, but they have it now. They have a hard to stop, don't count them out mentality. And what I mean is when you think you're putting them away, they're going to keep coming back. And they're resilient, and they're battle-tested. And I think that was the whole deal with Georgia. And that's the whole deal with Georgia this season. I think that they're battle-tested. I think that they're resilient. And this is that is the difference between Georgia in 2024 and Georgia this season. They're resilient, and they're not going away. Just when you think you got them, you don't have them. So you better make sure you're on your best for all 4 quarters when playing the Georgia Bulldogs. Home, away, neutral site, it doesn't matter. They're going to fight. And that is scary. That is a scary thought to think about with a Kirby Smart-led team. Georgia wins this ball game. They look good. They obviously look like they're a CFP team. Do not know if they're Atlanta-bound. Who knows? We got to see what's going on with Alabama and Texas A&M first. But we don't know what's going on there. But I will tell you this. They look like a good, solid playoff team coming up if they keep winning out in their games. And I've said this before, I don't think Georgia's going to lose another game. I really don't. I don't think Georgia's going to lose another football game. I just don't see it. Tell me where y'all see it. If y'all want to go over the schedule, we'll go over the schedule right now. But tell me where you see this. I don't see Georgia losing another football game. They have a bye this week, and then they play Florida in Jacksonville. Then they have Mississippi State, then Texas, then Charlotte, then Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is undefeated, and they will give Georgia Tech in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the neutral site Black Friday game. That's going to be a great game. Most likely will be a Pigskin Frenzy game. Again, do you really see Georgia losing another football game, though? I said that Georgia Tech was going to go to the ACC Championship. I picked them second to go to the ACC Championship. I was right about Georgia Tech. I didn't say they were going to go in undefeated, though. Right? I didn't say they were going to go undefeated. Again, I don't see Georgia losing another game. They play like that, like they did on Saturday. I don't see them losing another football game. Final score of this game was 43-35. Georgia gets the win, and Georgia looked really good in this ball game. Let's talk about Ole Miss, and then we will wrap up with coaching carousel talk and wrap up Pigskin Frenzy for Tuesday. So, Ole Miss, my goodness. Masterclass performance from Lane Kiffin. A masterclass performance for Lane Kiffin. And, we're not done talking about Lane Kiffin yet. We'll talk about Lane Kiffin here in a little bit as well. But masterclass performance by Lane Kiffin. He looked really good in this game. He coached great. And he's been coaching well all season. He's been out coaching everybody all season. And in the first half, probably up until the fourth quarter, he was looking like on pace to be out coaching Kirby Smart in that game as well. That offense was humming. Trinidad Chambliss is their guy still. He played really good. Georgia's defense just came alive in the fourth quarter, but they looked really good. The only negative circle moment to me was the rushing yards. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Trinidad Chambliss in this game had 263 yards, a touchdown, 19 for 36. Chambliss also had 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Kawan Lacey had 2 rushing touchdowns as well, but those were all red zone, goal line type stuff. But here's the deal. Stribling, a touchdown. I think Daquan Wright is one of the most underrated tight ends in the conference, but in college football, he is a stud, dude. There's a lot of people who have problems with Wright. So, I don't know. Wright is a problem. He creates chaos. He's a destructor of mayhem, if you will. How can you solve that problem? Because Daquan Wright is a problem for most defenses. So he was really good in this game as well. The stats may not show it on paper, but 11.3 yards per reception. That's a problem, in my opinion, at the tight end spot if you're a defense playing against Ole Miss. Overall, Ole Miss had positive circle moments in this game. I mean, look, passing yards, total yards 351. They were good on third down, 5 for 9 on third down. They protected Trinidad Chambliss to a T. They were physical up front as well, and they were scoring up until the fourth quarter. They did all they could. The only negative circle moment to me there are 2 negative circle moments to me was they may have scored a little bit too quick. Their defense got gassed, and 4 penalties for 40 yards and 88 rushing yards total in the game. Those numbers and those things right there is not good enough against a Georgia team, especially in Sanford Stadium. But that's it. I mean, really, that is all that you could say. about Ole Miss. Other than that, they looked really solid in this ball game. I mean, what else can you say? I don't think they looked too bad in this game. Lane Kiffin did the best that he could. Georgia just played a little bit better, and Ole Miss got a little bit too tired. That's all it is. Ole Miss has Oklahoma on Saturday. Oklahoma's favored by like 4.5, I think, at home. Spoiler alert, that's a Pigskin Frenzy game on week 9. Ole Miss at Oklahoma. That's a noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central kick in Norman, Oklahoma on ABC. We are going to cover that game this weekend. Here's my deal about all of this with Ole Miss. They're not out of it. They're not out of the ACC. They're not out of the SEC race. They're not out of the playoff race. They're not out of it. Now, it's going to put a damper on things if OU wins. They're playing a solid defense in Norman on Saturday. But let's see what happens because the rest of their schedule favors them. Trap game against Florida, maybe. Trap game against State in the Egg Bowl, probably, maybe. OU is going to be a good competitive game. So that's going to be a game they need to focus on, but they're not completely out of it yet. And Oklahoma needs to prepare for this team because Lane Kiffin is putting on a coaching clinic this season. We will see what happens on Saturday. But Ole Miss, I mean, I don't see what went wrong. Look, and we'll wrap up and talk about coaching carousel because we got to. Ole Miss has gotten they've made me eat my words. Ole Miss has made me eat my words. 9th in the SEC is where I put them in the conference standing projections back in June. They're not a 9th place team in conference standing projections. They're not. They're not at all. I think with Austin Simmons they could have been. I think with Trinidad Chambliss they are not. I think Trinidad Chambliss is their starting quarterback and should remain their starting quarterback. I really do. I think the whole dynamic of the offense has changed with Chambliss in there, and he has been an absolute stud for that offense. I really do. They are humming on offense, and they look really good. There is no wonder that teams want Lane Kiffin. There's no wonder because he's putting on a coaching masterclass for Ole Miss this season. Final score of this game was Georgia 43, Ole Miss 35. Georgia gets the win. I don't think Georgia's going to lose another game. We will see about Ole Miss, but Ole Miss looks like they could probably be a one-loss team as well. So we'll see what happens there coming up on Saturday. That is the Week 8 recap. That is all the games that I did. 3-1 this week. Pat on the back for Joel Norris, the prodigy of college football here. Before we wrap up everything, let's go into our coaching carousel and let's talk about the latest in the coaching carousel because it is getting wild. Another vacancy, another job has opened up. Florida has fired Billy Napier. They reported that this was probably going to happen, win or lose, for Mississippi State. After the Mississippi State game, that this was going to happen, that they were going to get rid of him, that this was his last game, his last stand, and it was. He went in, he met with officials, he met with his staff and players. They have let him go. Here's the thing about this. Love Billy Napier. He was a really good dude. To me, he is still a really good dude. He will land on his feet, and he will become a coach somewhere. I don't doubt that at all. I think he will be a better coach, not in the Southeastern Conference, but I think that he can be a good coach somewhere because he developed a really good staff down in Florida. They had a good talent, and they did. I just think that he was a little bit too stubborn in some ways, and people are going to hate on me for saying that, but he was a little bit too stubborn in setting his ways, and I think it cost him his job. That's really it. I think he would not give up play calling duties. I said that weeks back. If you don't remember me saying that early in September, go back and listen to what I said. I said he needed to give up play calling duties, let Russ Callaway call the plays. He would not give it up because he said that he feels like him calling the plays is going to make them win ball games. He had a heck of a staff down there, resources, facilities, everything. They gave him the world down in Florida. They gave him chance after chance after chance. He just didn't do that one simple thing, and I think it cost them, and it lost them ball games. They had the talent to probably go to the college football playoff. Let me put it to you that way. I think they did. I mean, a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy for saying that, but they did. They had a lot of people had them in their college football playoff brackets because they had the talent to do it. They did. And it didn't work out. And it was because he would not give up play calling duties. That's just my thing. That's just all my whole ordeal. I think Florida was in his tenure there was better than a lot of the teams he played, and he lost to those teams. It's not the standard. And it's not the standard because they could have competed for a playoff this year. They could have competed for playoffs probably in year 3. It just did not work out. Talent and resources, they had everything. It's just a little bit of stubbornness on his end. But we're praying for him. We're praying for him here at Pigskin Frenzy. We wish him all the best, and we hope that Billy Napier gets on his feet soon and becomes a coach in college football because I do think he is a good coach. It's just the expectations were not met at Florida. And he was not giving up the duties that he was supposed to give up, and he was not letting others do the job that they were supposed to do. And I feel that Florida just needed to move on. It was time for a change. The time was now, and I agree with the move. I think Billy Napier will land on his feet. We're praying for him, and we hope that he lands on his feet soon. He's a good dude, and like I said, we're praying for him, and we wish him best, and we hope the Lord, and we're praying for him. And we said that the Lord is with him. So let's talk about who's a fit at Florida. Obviously, Lane Kiffin. I mean, if you look at Lane Kiffin's a fit for the job, a mastermind offensive coach. Has got that swagger about him, that low-key swagger about him. Got that snarky cockiness, that entertaining attitude. It's just what Florida needs. And it fits Florida well. Now, we're going to see what other jobs open up before, I know, because I've been hearing a lot of stuff going on and blowing up on the the phone and on the X machine about, rumblings about other jobs and all this stuff. So we're going to wait and see what happens. But Florida's a good job. I think Lane Kiffin can do it, but he also loves Oxford a lot. So who knows what's going to happen with Lane Kiffin. But I think Lane Kiffin's a fit. You also want to know who I think's a fit? And a lot of people are going to say, he's going to say Drinkwitz. He's going to say Drinkwitz. Nothing against Eli Drinkwitz. I love me some Drink, man. He's the man. I don't think he's my second choice. I think Marcus Freeman's my second choice. I think Marcus Freeman's a good fit, and I think he would be a really good fit. He brings an attitude, a confident nature, culture down at Florida. He can bring a confident nature, confidence in Florida that's like, all right, man, we're going to go play tough, physical, smash mouth football, and we're going to bring it to everybody that we play. You didn't see a lot of that at in Billy Napier's Florida. And Florida kind of needs some of that. And with Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, you've been seeing a lot of that smash mouth type style of football. And with Marcus Freeman at Florida, you're going to get that. So I think he would be a solid fit for Florida to be their next head coach. He recruits well. You give him the resources. He's going to put a good staff there as well. I think Marcus Freeman would be a really good fit at Florida. That's just my deal. Look, Marcus Freeman, you're going to have to make him say no. I don't know if he's going to leave Notre Dame or not. I'm not saying he will or is. We're talking about who's fitting for this Florida job. Yes, Lane Kiffin. I think I'm really high on Marcus Freeman as a football coach. I've been high on him ever since he got hired at Notre Dame. I thought he was going to turn out great for Notre Dame, and I was right. He has. I just think that Marcus Freeman will be a good secondary option if Lane Kiffin tells you no. That's it. I think Lane Kiffin is the fit. He's the number one option. Lane Kiffin, make him tell you no. And if Lane Kiffin tells you no, oh well. I think the secondary option, you go after Marcus Freeman in South Bend and make him tell you no. Throw it all at him. Those are my two fits for the Florida job. You guys can let me know what you think, but I think those are the two best options for Florida right now. I really do. Go after those two. Go for Lane first, make him tell you no, and then go after Marcus Freeman. I think Marcus Freeman will be a solid option and a solid choice. Not a bad hire at all, obviously. That's the Florida job. I don't know the latest on what's happening. It all just happened a couple of days ago. We'll see what happens. They have interim staff there. We'll see what happens coming up. They have a bye week this week. Obviously, they don't play anybody. So they play Georgia next week. We'll see what happens, after they play, Georgia, right? So, we'll see, man. We will, we will see. We'll see what happens there. So, Georgia, Florida, that's their next game. Florida has let go Billy Napier. We're praying for him, and hopefully he lands in a good spot. But those are the two fits I'm going after. Lane first, Marcus Freeman next. So, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know. Say whatever. Clown me if you think those fits are wrong, but I really don't. I really don't. Guys, that's just about does it for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. Just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at pigskin_frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates, season highlights from across college football, bowl takes from me, and you're going to get a lot for Pigskin Frenzy there. The website's www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com as well. Guys, we are ready to rock and roll. A big Thursday episode on tap. Thank you for tuning in to Pigskin Frenzy. 5,500 listeners and counting. Once again, thank you guys. We could not do this show without you. And most importantly, we could not do this show without our Lord and Savior, Jesus. We proclaim him and we praise him across all platforms. We give him all the glory because without him, we would not be doing this. So we give him all the glory. We give him all the praise, Lord. So thank you, Lord, for giving us this show. And we give him all the praise for being in college football media. If you want to come to know him, X and Instagram at pigskin_frenzy. And the website is www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Contact info is down below on the home and about me page. So, guys, Thursday's a big episode on tap. We have none other for on Thursday for our Week 9 guest picker. We have none other than Chad Withrow from Outkick. He is the co-host of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow on weekdays 11 a.m. to 12 Eastern. Each weekday or every weekday on Outkick. Chad Withrow from Outkick will be joining the show on Thursday to be our Week 9 guest picker. We're going to talk about his career, what he does at Outkick, and the show Hot Mic. We're going to also discuss who's on Upset Alert for Week 9, his ranking reactions for Week 9, as well as our preview and predictions for our top matchups for Week 9. And those games are Ole Miss at Oklahoma. Man, we have BYU at Iowa State. We have a G5 implication, CFP representative implication between South Florida at Memphis. That is a Pigskin Frenzy game. I said we were going to do it. We're going to do it. As well as a game that no one thought was going to be a Pigskin Frenzy game, Missouri at Vanderbilt. All four of those games are Pigskin Frenzy games for Week 9. We're going to preview and predict those games for Week 9. Chad Withrow from Outkick joins the show on Thursday. Guys, until Thursday, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We will see you then. Guys, for everybody out there, we love you. We're praying for you all. As always, stay the course.